Hello, hello, and welcome to this casual chat with Freeman Beals from HatchUp Media. I'm really excited to present this conversation to you as well as interact with Freeman today. I know it's going to be a very valuable conversation. Me and Freeman actually met on LinkedIn through various different posts that we were posting. We've got the same intentions and the same kind of outlook on life in respects to positivity, forward movement, inspiration, becoming better. And that's how me and Freeman became connected on LinkedIn. But yeah, Freeman is all about solving people's media problems. So can you go a bit more into that for my audience, please, Freeman?
Yeah, definitely. And thanks for the great introduction. The biggest thing is what I like to tell people is we like to kind of take over the front side of the media of a company so that the business owner can go back to doing the things that they're more valuable doing inside that business, right? When it comes to all your marketing and your creatives, most business owners probably aren't naturally inclined to do that kind of stuff, right? There's a reason that they started a business doing, whether it be coaching or creating products, right? Like that's what they want to do. They don't want to have to go and market that. So it's kind of giving them the power to go back in and run their business again. And then our team can go forward and take off the forward facing side of things.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's like most people get involved in business because of what they love to do, and that's why they've created that particular business. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I have to learn this, I have to learn this, I have to learn this, I have to learn
Yeah.
this. And they're like, oh no. And it's just
Yeah.
like
They're like, oh, I
too
need a
much.
website and I need a sales funnel. Yeah.
Yeah,
How does
so
Instagram work?
I know, right? I know there's just so much, especially these days with the online world. So it's really good that business owners have people like you that they can outsource to that have that knowledge and that expertise. So definitely, if you're looking to solve your media problems, Freeman is your man. Reach out to him. You can search up HatchUp Media. Do you search that up on LinkedIn? Where's your best?
Yeah. So we're on LinkedIn. HatchUp Media is on there, and also just hatchupmedia.com is also
Perfect.
where we live there. So those are our two spots you can find us. I guess on Instagram too, HatchUp Media at HatchUp
Amazing.
Media. So
Amazing. So let's get to the crux of this conversation, Freeman. I'm really looking forward to
I'm
this
excited.
like we need more positivity and connection and encouragement, upliftment with it, if upliftment's even a word, but you understand what I mean. In this world, like this world over the years has become increasingly heavy, increasingly dark, increasingly dense. There's a lot of collective and global trauma that we've all experienced, especially over the last couple of years, that many people have essentially become buried in their problems. And what I've personally found throughout my whole experience is we get to choose whether we allow our problems to bury us or whether we actually dig ourselves out of the problems that we have become faced with. Like we're so much more powerful than what we have been made to believe, and also what our mind likes to get us to believe. So yeah, what is your take in respects to the issues and the struggles that we face?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, I mean, we as humans we're very connected, you know, entity, so to speak. We really like to be connected, which means that we like to learn from others, see what's going on. The problem with that comes into play is the fact that in the world right now, like you said, there is a lot of this push towards the dark, media, and the information that's coming out is all very negative. And that's because we latch onto that naturally, survivally, right? We're like, it's better if you're in a survival situation, it's better to remember, okay, that's where the big nasty bear attacked me, instead of all the places that the bear didn't attack you. That's just how your brain protects yourself, right? And then that, you pile that with the fact of the interesting fact I heard the other day that we're driven, but we see more negative media now in 24 hours than we used to in a lifetime, like 100 years ago, whatever, like that, because of the internet and social medias and all those things, right? So because of those things and like that psychology and that particular fact, I think it's really important that we're very aware to put more positivity forward, right? Because we're going to be hyper inundated with negativity. Our brains are going to be attracted to it more. Just that's the way they're wired. So it's like, okay, to counter that, we need to thus be more positive, put more positive out, shine more light on the good things and the positive things. And especially as persons, as people doing that, because unfortunately, the big news, the big news agencies don't do it, right? I don't watch a lot of news anymore. I don't listen to a lot of it, of mainstream news anyways, because a lot of it's just negative, right? It's that's what sells headlines, unfortunately, again, because of the way that we psychologically see things. So yeah, I'm hyper on the wagon of pushing positivity kind of everywhere and anywhere I can. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And definitely something that I've learned is the more you give, the more you receive. And it's not just a case of like, oh yeah, if I put out positivity, I'm going to get so many good things back. It's more on a psychological sense of the more you give, the more you receive, because when you give, it actually feels better to give. So you actually receive through giving to people. But then with that being said, you do actually get back from the universe in some which way or another, whether you call it the universe or God or whatever you believe in when it comes to the higher power. I'm always going to refer to it as the universe because that's my belief.
Yeah.
But you can flip and change that to whatever you believe. The universe always gives back, whether or not it be from that very same person or from Bob, Sally, Tracy, John down the road, whoever that may be, it will always come back. And I really love the fact, well, I want to pick up on your point, should we say, where we are inundated with negativity all throughout the day. And it's crazy to think that we're filled with more negativity throughout the day than what we were 100 years ago in a lifetime. That's absolutely crazy. And it's just really thinking about curating our lives where we have very as little negativity as possible, and we're in full control of what we consume and what we and it's not just a case of like consumption is overall, like they say you are what you eat, and there's a point to that for sure, but it's not just what you eat through your mouth, it's what you eat through your eyes, it's what you eat through your ears, it's what you're consuming in respects to the TV, these kinds of conversations, podcasts, the things that you're looking at on your social media newsfeed. And what many people I've found don't realize that they have is that they have full control over their social media newsfeed. So if you don't like the negativity that you see, if you feel like it's triggering you, if it's making you feel bad, unfollow them or follow someone else. You don't necessarily need to unfriend them if you're scared of hurting someone. You can just unfollow them or mute them and they don't know that you've done that. And I'm definitely with you, Freeman. Like, I haven't watched the news in 5 years and it was the best decision that I ever made. And like, whenever I'm hearing stuff, like I've just been so connected from this global fiasco over the last 2 years that it would be friends telling me what's been going on. Like, I'm so grateful that I've been in Bali. I'm so grateful. But with that being said, it's like we get so in this bubble of what's going on, of the negativity, because we choose to watch the news and we choose to stay in that bubble. Whereas if we choose to curate our own bubble of like positivity, it's like, it's not to say that that's not going on, no, but if you can't do anything about it, then what's the point in being about it, because you can't do anything. So it's all about doing what you can do. And that's what I really love about what you're doing and what you're about, Freeman. Like, you're on day 100 and what day are you on?
I think I'm on 126.
So
125.
126 of positivity that you're putting out on LinkedIn. And this is what I love, because we need more of that. We need to see more of that. People need it because we are all collectively going through tough times. So the fact that you're giving that out and also inspiring people to think of positivity is beautiful. And one other point as well is you mentioned, like, naturally our brains are wired to go for the negativity and to go for just the bad stuff, really, and to look at the bad stuff. And it's true.
We remember it better. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's our ego as well. But also,
Yep.
if our brains can naturally be wired to the negativity, that means that we can actually rewire our brain if we want to, and if we put in the intention to do it. And it's not necessarily always going to be easy. A guy that I follow that really knows his stuff is called Joe Dispenza. Have you heard of him?
I haven't heard of him. No, I'll add him to my list of people to look into, though,
Oh my
for
gosh,
sure.
he's so good. Like
Yeah.
literally, honestly, like, and he's a scientist as well, so he's done like the brain scans and the brain science in respects to rewiring your brain, and also being able to create and heal your body literally
Hmm.
by rewiring your brain through various different methods. So yeah, I highly recommend that you follow him because it's really, really interesting stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
that's
there's
that
a couple
concept
of
of like
books.
neuroplasticity, right? That idea that we have the ability to actually rewire the way that our brains fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like, I mean, and it's so vital, that point that you said, is that we can. I have this belief that anything that you're doing, everything and anything that gets easier the more you do it. It's practice, right? The more you practice something, the easier it gets. That can be eating healthy, working out, making connections with people, public, all of these things can just get easier the more you do them, including looking for positives. The more you look for positives, the more you will get into that habit of looking for positives. My mom had this brilliant saying, and it still sits with me a lot, is that, if all you're looking if all you do, is look for shit, all you'll see is shit.
Yeah.
Right? You have to look for the gold, and then you'll start seeing gold.
Yeah.
um and it's
Yeah.
it's so true, right? It just, and we do, like, as you do it more, and like, like you said, we have that neuroplasticity. We can change the way that we are viewing things and how often we see positive things. And then, it's really important, I think, as well, to regurgitate that, share that bit out again, right? If you see something, you're like, man, that's really great, that really made, inspired me, that really made me feel positive. It's like, it costs you nothing to share that on, right? Nothing at all. Even down to things. I was just, I saw a post just today that was like, oh, go make somebody smile today. Because smiling is like, it's the easiest thing for you to do. It doesn't cost you anything to smile, and it makes other people smile, right? If you make somebody smile, generally speaking, you're going to smile as well. So it's like the best ROI you could possibly have. You're
Yeah,
like, you get a smile, I get a smile, perfect. Like, and it costs us both nothing,
I know.
right? And all it did was make us better. And I
Yeah.
think it's so important, right? So important.
Honestly, you've just triggered a memory from when I first started my journey 5 years ago. So, little bit of a background. When I started my business journey, that's when I started my personal growth journey. But the first two books that I read were encompassed in spirituality. So I started it all at the same time. And the first two books, just to give you background as well, was The Magic by Rhonda Byrne, which was basically it's about the power of gratitude and being grateful and
Yeah.
incorporating that into your life. And I
So
was reading
important.
it. It's only about like 5-10 minutes read a day, with different tasks that you do on a daily basis to incorporate gratitude into your life. And then I was reading it with a happy pocket full of money, which is all about the law of attraction and like wealth and prosperity and abundance and all of that stuff.
Abundance
I
mindset.
was
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I was reading those two alongside each other, and I was just feeling so good, and just like feeling the law of attraction and incorporating the law of vibration into it. So I'm feeling really good. And like I lived in London at the time, and I used to work at a place called Canary Wharf, and I would travel on the train, the underground to Canary Wharf. So like there was this one time I was walking down the street, and there was this old man, like literally I was just walking past him, and I was like, good morning, and I just like gave him this massive smile, and like he was shocked, and he looked at me and he smiled back, and he was like, you know what, young lady, you've just made my day. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy. And it really doesn't take anything, and it just makes you feel so much better as well. So I really love the point that you said that. And like, just test it, try it out, walk down
Yeah.
the street, smile at someone, say good morning, say good afternoon, whatever that may be. And I've found, like, even people that have like a miserable look on their face, like, because we're all going through something, and a
Of
lot of the
course.
time we allow the negativity to overcloud our mind. So you never know, that piece of hi, like good morning, that could really make someone's day. So I always do practice it whenever I'm out and I pass someone, to say hello, good morning, and give them a massive smile, because we really are connected. And if we're able to share our light and our happiness with someone that doesn't necessarily look very happy, it could really, really make their day. So I absolutely, absolutely love that point. There's also one thing that you said as well about going back to the rewiring our brain part.
Mhm.
Something that I've also learned recently as well is there are people that find it harder to rewire their brain.
Yeah, I mean, we all do things at different levels, right? So that doesn't surprise me at all.
And it's like, if any of the viewers find that they're more positioned to think of the negatives rather than look at the positives or the solutions, I just want to let you know that you can flip things for yourself. It's all about intentionality, and it's all about self-awareness, and it's also about asking yourself the right questions. So instead of being like, oh, why me? Why does this always happen to me? It's more like, okay, so why is this happening again? What do I need to learn? How can I grow from this? So it's quite literally a flip of the language that you're using for yourself, but also B, flipping the tonality and the
Mm.
intention and the emotion around the question, because we really are more powerful than we've been made to believe. And first, it's really coming to that understanding. And if you're also finding it hard, start surrounding yourself with people that are going to,
I was just gonna say, yep.
yeah, go on, say what you was gonna say.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say that's exactly the trick, right? If you struggle with that yourself, have a look at the people around you, right? We are so heavily influenced by who we surround ourselves with. Not in person, not only in person, but also on our socials, right? Like you touched on early in this conversation, right? You have control of what your social feed is. If you're seeing negativity in it, stop following that negativity. See positivity, hit the like on the positivity, because that will help you within that, right? And it's vitally important to really be aware, and you sort of touched on this, to be aware of how you communicate with yourself. And there's a really powerful thing that I always tell people, and like also for the viewers, like if you find yourself beating up on yourself a lot, think to yourself, would I talk to somebody I love like this? And if that answer is no, then you really need to rethink how you're talking to yourself, right? Because if you're not giving yourself the same level of respect and on honesty that you would somebody you care about, you need to really rethink, because I think people forget how powerful our internal thoughts are to ourselves, and the way that we say things, the tonality of them. Another good brain hack with that as well, if you're one of those kinds of people who struggle with that internal monologue, give that internal monologue a different name. Right. This is a neat hack that I learned from a neuroscientist and some podcasts I do somewhere. But by changing the name of that person in your brain to not being you, you can be like, oh, that negative thought, that was Terry. I'm not going to listen to Terry today. Right. For some reason, it makes it significantly easier to disassociate that thought with your own thought.
Mm-hmm.
Because our thoughts are not who we are. And I think that's the problem people often think about. They're like, oh, everything I think is reflected in who I am. It's like, well, no, that's not even remotely true, right? We all have thoughts that probably completely don't align with the way that we live and our values and stuff like that, because it's the way our brains are, right? They just churn information out. So it's up to us to decide which of that information we listen to or not all of it.
Yeah, definitely. I love
Yeah.
that. And it is really important that we do go back to, would I speak to the one I love about that?
So important.
Would I speak to my child like that? Because at the end of the day, it's like, we really need to be aware of the thoughts that we're thinking towards ourselves, because that is what is going to send us in a direction of complete growth and expansion in a positive direction, or in a direction of deterioration and stagnancy. And we cannot escape ourselves. There's no way that we can get away
No.
from ourselves. We're following ourselves around every single day, and we don't even try. Like, we are our only full life partner. So the life partner that you may have or that you're seeking, they are not your true life partner. You are your true life partner.
That's so good.
Would you treat your life partner the way that you treat yourself, the way that you talk to yourself? And then if the answer is no, then how can you change that? How can you bridge that gap to how you're currently treating yourself to how you want your life partner to treat you? Because however you want your life partner to treat you is exactly how you should be treating yourself, because the people that we bring into our lives, that we attract into our lives, are quite literally mirrors of the way that we treat ourselves. So
yeah, I mean, totally. And like, it goes back to, like, you talked a lot about, I'm a big term, I use the term universe as well. So I'm glad that we align on that for sure. You know, there's a certain belief with having that, you know, understanding of the energy that you give off, right? The energy that you give off is so much energy that you receive back. And I had an interesting conversation with somebody one time about, you know, in the, you know, 1800s, it was, you know, unbelievable that, like, when radio waves came out, when people were like, oh, you know, here's this thing, it's a radio, we can transmit information unseen across distances. People were like, that's insane. How is that even possible? It was, you know what I mean? Like, before somebody discovered radio waves, if you were to say to somebody, hey, I'm going to send you this information 1,000 kilometers that way, like, no, that's not possible. Yeah, I can't see it. So it's not that big of a stretch to say that we just don't yet understand the energy levels that we can give off and receive, right? Until somebody's like, oh wait, and here's the technologies that actually show us that. Because you know, the truth is in the pudding, as they say, right? It happens to lots of people, especially with the gratitude thing, you know. Like, I think that's such an important piece, and something that you see people who are happy, people who are successful, people who feel fulfilled, are often the people who practice daily gratitude. Like, it cannot be put forward how important that level of gratitude is. Also for yourself too, because again, the more you practice something, the more you tend to do it. The more you give gratitude, the more you see gratitude, and the more gratitude, again, you'll receive as well. Yeah.
And honestly, like, at first you're like, well, especially if you're in a really low place, it's like, well, what can I be grateful for? And if we just look at it from the bare bones, it's like, well, the roof over my head, the running water that I have, the heating that I have,
breathing.
the bed, the breathing, the air that I breathe, the feet that I have. Oh my gosh, like, I met someone a couple of weeks ago who had no big toe. He had an accident and he had to have his big toe cut off. So, like, his balance was funny. I was like, how's your balance? He was like, oh no, I have to go to a chiropractor twice a month. And
oh man,
I've had to realign myself and all of that stuff. So even the fact that you have toes, like, be grateful for that. The fact that like, you can look out of your eyes, the fact that we can speak, the fact that we can speak, like, and have this conversation when you're in Canada and I'm in Bali. Like, the fact that whatever you're watching this on, the fact that you've got a device like that, because there's many that haven't. And there really is so much to be grateful for, even in the hard times. And when we do start practicing gratitude, it helps us get through the hard times. There's always something, even if you're broke, for instance, the fact that you've got money to pay for bills, that's something to be grateful for. Because if you didn't have the money to pay for your electric or your gas, even at the phenomenal, astronomical prices that they are at the moment, like, you could be cold or have no light in your house. So there's all through any like shit or struggle or turmoil, because we're all going through it, we always have a choice to choose the positivity or the negativity. And when we choose the positivity, that's when I like what Esther Hicks says about positive thoughts. So like if there's a big boat, like a cruise ship, to get docked to the dock, you can't just throw one of these big ropes. And think of this as like the constant wave of positive thoughts is the big ropes, right? You can't just throw a big rope over because it's too heavy for humans to throw it over to actually keep it docked. So what they do is they tie a small rope to a bigger rope, to a bigger rope, to a bigger rope, to a bigger rope, to then bring this big rope that's actually going to keep the big cruise ship docked to the dock. And that's essentially how we look at the positive thinking and the gratitude, because one positive thought then leads to another, then leads to another, then leads to another, and then it just gets bigger and they just keep coming. And the same goes for the negative thoughts, and we do always have a choice. So I really want to lead on to something that we wanted to sort of touch upon through this chat, is how to embrace positivity and positive thinking without being naive. So what are your thoughts on that stance there, Freeman?
Yeah, that's such a good, I'm so glad you asked that. That's so good. It's something that I think about a lot. I'm naturally, I probably would say I'm a hyper positive individual, which means that I do have to be slightly aware that I'm not being overly optimistic, because that's when you can run into dangers, right? When you can become in the realm of, unrealistic, you set expectations that are too high, you expect things that are too much, right? Then that can be an issue. It's I stand on that position just because of the way that I am. I think that that's such a rare case. You know what I mean? I don't think it's as big of an issue that some people maybe think it is. Mainly because if you tell people to shoot to here, they often only get here. So if you tell people, look at everything that's positive in your life, always be looking at the positive, right? If that's the method that you're pushing out, that's what people are going to hear. They're going to attain for that, but they probably aren't, because there's a lot of things kind of against that level of positivity, right? So I think it's okay to be like, look, I'm a silver linings kind of person, right? I'm like, where's the silver lining? How do I see what's right? As long as you're not drifting yourself into the level of like delusionalness, right? Like, I can't positively think my way out of a speeding ticket, but I can not speed when I'm driving, right? I can't just be like, oh, this cop's gonna love me, he's gonna, not give me a ticket, and I can speed wherever I go because, I won't get an accident, because, that's kind of getting unrealistic. So I think maybe, if I don't know if there's like an internal check you could do, but like I said, I think that is such a small percentage of an issue that the opposite problem of not doing it far outweighs the small chance that something bad will happen because of being overly optimistic.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I agree on the level of like when we think positively, things tend to more go in our favor, for sure. It's not necessarily always a guarantee, however, because certain actions need to be taken. There needs to be inspired action off of the back of it. And if things don't necessarily happen in the way that we consciously think it will, which is most of the time, the universe always has a different plan for us. I can use an example for you. So there's a festival that literally just finished this weekend in the UK. It's my favorite festival in the world. It's called Boomtown. I would say it's like on par to Burning Man. It's like the UK's version of Burning Man, just weird and wonderful and fun and all of that good stuff. And it's been postponed until this year, since 2020, because of the global fiasco. And I got my ticket back then, but because of all of the restrictions with travel, like Indonesia didn't lift their restrictions for people coming into the country with no vax until the end of July. And it didn't give me enough time to prepare for staying at Boomtown and like the costings, because I like to, when I go to festivals, I go all out. I'm one of those ones. So I was like, I was like, right, okay, I'll sell my ticket. And I couldn't sell my ticket because there was too many people selling their ticket and there was so much noise. So I was like, okay, so last option, I'm going to email Boomtown and ask them to refund me my non-refundable ticket.
Sure.
Just putting it out there, tried, and they refunded it because I had that positive thinking and because I was taking that inspired action towards it. And it's not a case of like positively thinking your way into the life that you want, for instance. It's, yes, positively thinking your way into it, but also taking the inspired action towards it to make it happen. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be plain sailing. It's like there are going to be ups and downs, but the reason those ups and downs are there is to test you to see how much you truly want what you say you want, and B, give you the lessons that you need so you get what you want. Because for you to get from A to B, not only do you need to do the things, but you also need to change the things that are within you that have got you to A, but you need to change certain things to get to B, to become a better person, to create the better. And I find a lot when it comes to like, there's like toxic positivity around,
Yes.
and like bypassing certain things that go on in our lives. And we need to be very aware that shits and struggles do happen. And it's not just a case of positively thinking our way out of the shits and struggles. It's like, okay, this is shit. Okay, I need to feel this emotion. And this is also very important, is to feel the emotion, is to feel the anger, is to feel the upset, is to scream in a pillow if you need to. Like whenever I'm swimming, I'll scream in the pool if I'm angry because it gets like, it muffles the scream. Or when we feel the need to cry, don't hold it back. Shit happens. And that's the beauty of this human experience, is we get to feel the whole spectrum of emotion. And the issue is that many people suppress the negative emotions. And when we suppress it, because everything is energy, when we suppress that negative emotion, it becomes stuck in our body. And that's when it manifests in uncomfortable ways, whether that be emotional, mental, or physical. So it's really, really important to really embrace the experience. But then after we get that negativity out of us, then it's like you said, looking for the silver lining. What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? What do I need to do to get out of this? Instead of being, why me? Like, be like that for like a day to get your emotions out.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, have it for a little while. That's okay. And well, there's another interesting thing that happens with emotions as well. And this, for people who, tend to kind of keep them in or suppress them, so to speak. Interestingly, what happens, the reason that it can be harmful as well, is what it does is it tells your body to suppress emotions, which means both of them, which means both the anger and the joy, both the sadness and the happiness. So not only will you suppress the sadness, but then when you get a happy moment, your body is sort of already in suppress mode. It just doesn't want to deal with emotions, both good and bad ones. So it actually starts to kind of mess, again, because we can kind of control what our brains think, right? It begins to have that impact completely. I think, but like again, it's also too, I mean, I'm kind of a water off the duck's back kind of person. I just think things happen for reasons, right? I've had people throughout my life, ask me, oh, is there anything that you regret? And I'm like, no, because everything that I've done, whether it be good, bad, whether it bad decision, good or bad decision, has led me to where I am now, right? And everything I do forward will lead me to where I go. So it's hard. Like I'm like, no, like other things that I would even have a hard time saying there's things I would do differently, because I wouldn't be who I am if I would have done them differently, right? So yeah, no, definitely. I think it's super important.
I'm very much with you with that as well. Like, I do believe everything happens for a reason. And I mean, I've been through my fair shares of shits and struggles in many different areas of my life. And if it wasn't for the shits and struggles, I wouldn't be who I am now. I wouldn't have the wisdom
Mm-hmm.
that I do. I wouldn't have the experience. I wouldn't have the knowledge. I wouldn't have that pain that I experienced to be able to alchemize it and transmute it into the power that I now have. And I truly believe that the pain that we go through is there for whatever karmic lesson that we need to learn as the souls having a human experience on this planet, so we can grow and transcend into the next level of ascension and consciousness that we need, so we can become better and do better for this planet and for our children. And, you know, maybe not even come back to this planet and go to an even better planet and fly around with no pain.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like, how do we know, right? We don't. And I think that's, you know, that's such an interesting kind of way to look at it, because regardless of which way you believe of it, right? Whether you're, you know, into reincarnation, whether you believe in heaven, whether you believe, you know, there is no afterlife, all of those, regardless of what you believe, it's like, so I have this mantra, which is why not, right? So I'm like, so like, regardless of what those is, regardless of what you think happens after, why not live your life the fullest way you possibly can? What do you have to lose? Literally nothing, right? There is no reason that you shouldn't.
They put us under an illusion that we have things to lose, like throughout the system and throughout, like, you need to do this,
Okay, yeah.
this. But really and truly, by staying stuck in that illusion and what people are telling us is the right way to live, by not actually following what we truly want, that's where we're losing out.
Yeah, totally. And I think this is, I mean, part of the reason that happens is because, you know, we look for validation, right? So if, you know, if somebody does something the same way you did, it validates in you that that was the right way to do something, right? And, you know, and the reverse of that is the fact that if somebody tells you something's not possible, they don't want you to do it, because if you do it, then it was like, oh, that is a possibility. That was the thing that I could have potentially done as well, right? Which, you know, again, another one of my mantras is like, you know, nothing is impossible until some, you know, or nothing's possible until, you know, I'm getting it wrong, but it's the idea that even though somebody says something's impossible, it doesn't mean that it's impossible for you, right? It just means that it was impossible for them, and that's really that's huge.
I love that. It's when people, I'm with that so much. It's like people projecting their limiting beliefs onto you. Oh, you
Yeah.
can't do that. No, you can't do that.
No,
Don't
you
tell me
can't
that
do
I
it.
can't do it.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah.
maybe the quote that you were searching for was, nothing is impossible. In fact, impossible has the words I am possible in it. Is that what
I
you was
like
looking
that quote. No, it wasn't, but I like that one. Yeah, yeah.
for?
No, I think the
Oh.
quote that I don't know if I read it somewhere. I don't know if I made it up, but it's just because somebody tells you something possible is impossible doesn't mean that it's not possible for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's true.
Which again, I don't know if I read somewhere or what. I don't know where that came from, but
Well, if you came up with it, it's definitely a great quote. So, like, what is
cool.
it? Copyright it, TM it. I love it.
Yeah, put a little TM at the end of it. Yeah, no, definitely. One of the other questions actually kind of bouncing in my brain as we've been talking here that I want to kind of bounce off of you, and this is probably going to help people as well, is we often talk about a lot about, okay, you know, you need to think positively, you know, look for reason, you know, look to do better, smile at people, look for success in your life, look for fulfillment. But one of the things I think people often struggle with, right, is, you know, a reason why, right? For them, it's like, okay, I get that you're saying that, but why should I be doing that, right? And I think it's really important to, you know, find your reason for doing something, because just because somebody tells you to isn't a good reason to be doing something. You need to be doing it for a certain reason. So what are some, you know, things that you can think of and you know, you get people to do that are really helpful for them to find that internal why for themselves?
Think of the bigger picture. A lot of the times when people are going after what they want, they're thinking about themselves, and it's very, very easy to let ourselves down. So, and like, especially, And this is why it's also important to like cultivate a circle of accountability, because if you have a circle of accountability that you meet up with like every week or 2 weeks or every month, whatever suits the circle, when you say to the circle of accountability what you're going to do, it's like, okay, shit, I've told them that I'm going to do that now. I need to do it because I don't want to look stupid and all of that. And like, you can set up like a punishment or a reward in the circle if you do it or if you don't do it. Like with mine, we have to do the cinnamon challenge if we don't do what we say we're going to do. So that's a really good like push. But yeah, like circle of accountability helps, but when it comes to why, it's always the bigger picture. Like when I first started on my journey, it was more the freedom for me. But then when I connected more to my bigger picture, it was, what can I do for my mum when I achieve what I say I'm going to achieve? What can I do for my family? And then what can I do for my future family and the family that I want to create? And then once I started to, and like our picture gets bigger, the more we the more we achieve for ourselves and the more power we see we have within us in respects to the creation of the world and the life that we want to create, it gets bigger. So then, you know, the bigger it gets, the bigger it gets. And then it's like, well, okay, I'm not just showing up for myself now, I'm showing up for my parents, my family, my organization, my team, the world, the people that I'm going to help. Like, so if I don't show up, then I'm not going to make the difference in these people's lives that I want to. So that's what pulls us through. So it's always coming back to a bigger picture that stirs emotion within you. It's like thinking about, okay, well, what breaks your heart? What breaks your heart? Because that's also gonna give you some kind of meaning and purpose behind what you do, right? And there's many different ways that we can get it. Like, you know, whatever breaks your heart, it's like, yeah, you could be an activist towards it, or you could eventually want to invest in something that is going to better that cause. Okay, well, how can you get to a point where you can invest in something? Oh, I'll do this, I'll go for this. And then, like, even if whatever you're doing isn't necessarily top of your list of passions, it's like, okay, well, I know that this is going to get me to my end game of this, which is the bigger picture, which is creating whatever world change that you want to create. And like, there's, from one of my mentors, it's like really thinking about the context. She calls it context. And a lot of the times, so I'll use the context of family, for instance. A lot of the times people are like, I want to have a baby. And that's a really small context. Okay, well, when your baby is no longer a baby, then what's happening with that baby? So it's like, making the context as big as you can, so it cannot be broken down with a trail of thought. So like, instead of I want to have a baby, I want to create amazing humans where I have such a strong, connective, deep understanding relationship with them that they can expand into the bigness that they are, but then they also want to be my friend and hang out with me when I'm an old woman. But they actually choose to come and hang out with me rather than feel like they need to hang out with me, right? And like, if you have a look into wealth creation, because that's on the majority of people's minds, money. Oh, I want to earn £1 million a year, $1 million a year. So what's that? That's £84,000 a month. If you don't reach £84,000 a month, then that's easily broken down with a trail of thought, and then that fucks things up for you. So then, again, leaving it to the universe, I'm very big into manifestation and being able to create, and the fact that I'm not the only one that's creating, I'm co-creating with the universe. So it's the full creation of, if I have a big context, I'm going to create more wealth in my life than I ever could have imagined. Then it's like, there's no time limit. So it's like, through that wealth that I create, I'm going to be able to help so many people with the wealth that I create. So then that again connects to the bigger picture, and that cannot be broken down with a trail of thought, with such a seemingly small context of $1 million a year, it's like, no, I'm going to create however much I can, so then I can give back. So it's all about
Yeah.
like, it's all about connecting to the bigger picture of everything that cannot be broken down with a trail of thought, but also with the people and the causes that you're going to help and the things that you're going to impact. And at first, it does start small. It does.
Mm.
Like it for me, at first, it was just my freedom. I just wanted to break free from the system. I wanted to stop working for the bank. And then I hit that mark, I hit that mark, I hit that mark. And then it just got bigger. So it's really about finding your truth in what you want to create that feels true to you, that is going to allow you to wake up with that zing and like, yeah, I'm going to do it, and like I'm going to push past the perceived limitations of I haven't got enough time, I'm tired, I've got all of this. Because when we truly want to create something and do something and impact things, we always find a way. Like we're so very resourceful as humans, but we need to find that thing that's going to make us do it. So it's really like sitting down and having a solid meeting with yourself in respects to everything that you want to be, do, become, create, and all of that good stuff. What are
Yeah,
your thoughts?
definitely. And yeah, I mean, it's so true. And I think certain people hit that point in their lives in at different points, right? But it is something that, I mean, I guess there's probably some people who never hit that point. But it's about being incredibly truthful with yourself, which comes back to that whole positive way of talking to yourself, right? Which I think is so important. But yeah, being really truthful to yourself. And so one of my practices that I like to do is, I like to kind of ask why often, right? So it's like, okay, this is why, I want to do this. Okay, well, why do I want to do that? And then be really truthful with those answers, right? To find a root cause for something and really bring it back to a root. But you have to be truthful to hit those roots, right? But being truthful for yourself is so important, so you can find what those values are that drive you forward. Find what those passions are, right? Find that, like you said, that emotion that gets you out of the bed and gets you going in the morning, right? I also think it's really important, you touched on it as well, that like you might have, a grand picture of what you want to do. Let's say, just using an example, let's say you want to, develop schools in Kenya, right? That's your mission and your goal. Well, again, to come back to positive, and realistic thinking, an overly positive person would be like, I'm just going to go up, I'm going to get up tomorrow and I'm going to fly to Kenya, I'm going to make schools. And it's like, okay, well, realistically, that probably isn't going to work, right? You're not going to be able to get funding and stuff like that. But if you can take something that you're doing, whether it be a hobby, whether it be part of your business, whether it be the business you're creating, and know that part of the reason you're doing that is so that you can fund schools in Kenya later on, right? Then that will allow you to do that thing that will let you get to that point, right? We're taught so often as kids, especially my generation, when we were growing up in school, it was like, oh, chase your passion, do what makes you happy. And it's like, and I totally agree with that. I think it's really important that you should do that. But again, you have to be a little bit realistic with it as well, right? And there's always a spin on it, right? Like if what makes you happy is, making teddy bears, well then, make Build-A-Bear Workshop, right? Like there are ways towards it, but you have to be realistic about it. And it's also that thought that like what you're doing right now might only be a stepping stone to where you need to go. And that's what's important, is that everything you're doing is, like you said, is those small steps to where you need to go, right? It's part of the problem. I mean, the issue is, of course, with social media is all you ever see are people after they've done all their steps, right? We only ever see people once they're on their pedestal that they wanted to get to, which, I mean, that's a whole other topic about pedestals and getting to them. But you don't see the steps. You don't see that grind along the way. You don't see them working, a 9-to-5 job, paying their bills so that they can afford to get coaching, so they can afford to get the class that they want to take, so they can go do that next thing that they need to do in life. But it is very important about finding that why, that emotion that gets you up in the morning. And I really like that you tie it to family as well, because I think that's so important, to think bigger than yourself, right? The people who are like, oh, I want to be successful because I want to buy a Lamborghini, those people only find success very short-lived. It's never a long-lived thing. It's also probably not actually going to make them happy later on. There's tons of facts about that as well, right? Chasing money just to get things is never a good reason to chase money, right? Chasing money to do positive, do well in the world, to help other people. Those people are generally much happier when they become wealthy than those who just want to buy Lamborghinis and mansions. But grounding yourself on that why is so vitally important. And to kind of tie it together, if you're having a hard time figuring out what your why is, you might need to adjust your social circle, right? Maybe, you know, and then you'll get that inspiration and that insight, right? Maybe you'll see them tracking their why and you'll be like, oh wow, how did you do that? Talk to them about it, right? Which I guess goes into, you know, the point of like, talk about these kinds of things with people, right? It isn't necessarily, you know, sure, if you're the type of person that meditates and that's what you do, awesome. I think that meditation is amazing. I think it's a really powerful tool. But not everybody, because we're all different, not everybody's just going to be able to sit down and meditate 10 minutes a day for a few months and come to these great conclusions. Some people are going to have coffee chat with close friends, right? Open up to the people that you hold, you know, trust in and you know, that you hold in high regard, and talk to them about it, right? Like, hey, I'm trying to figure out what my why is, you know, because just talking and just collaborating with people through things will often generate an idea that you never would have got if you just sat there, you know, by yourself, unless you're that type of person, which again, more power to you, right? And I think, you know, the core of that is that just, you know, the core of the point, I guess, is that we're all different. We all approach things differently. It's about finding the right tools to figure out to get to where you need to go.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
this chat is a great example of that, right? I'm sure we're covering things that we would never have thought of, you know, just hanging out by ourselves, right? You know, even though if meditating, you know, by a pool would have been a really nice way to spend an afternoon. But
Oh, it is nice meditating by the pool in the sun, I must say.
yeah.
The cultivation of our social circle, I mean, this is the second time this has come up in this chat, is really important. And it's like, there's a quote that I've seen: if you feel like your social circle is in a cage, you need to change it. Like, you need to break free, something like that. And you know, I've been there, I'm sure many of us have, where it's like no one in the circle really has any true goals or aspirations. It's just drinking, smoking, doing drugs all the time, you know, just fucking
Making
about,
bad
no.
jokes.
Yeah, like just being negative, like taking the mickey out of each other and judging everyone and all of that stuff. And that's really not going to get us anywhere. So if you do feel like you want more out of life, but you don't feel like you can connect to your current social circle, then seek out people. And it doesn't necessarily need to be in your physical reality. I mean, throughout my whole journey, it's mainly been online. Like, I've had online communities. I've cultivated an online community centered around mental, emotional, personal, and spiritual growth. So if you want to find out more about that, just reach out to me. And it's all about like really connecting with people that you vibe with. Like me and Freeman vibed on LinkedIn, and now we're having this chat, and we had a nice chat on LinkedIn previously. And it's all about networking, and we don't really understand the power of networking until we actively go out to learn and understand the power of networking. And the beauty of us as humans is we're all different. We all have different perspectives. We all come from different walks of life, different backgrounds, different experiences, and we all can learn from each other. So it's opening that space to be able to learn from one another so we can help each other move forward. Because if you haven't already noticed, we're not going to move forward and rise from top to bottom. The people at the top don't give a shit about us. We need to start truly cultivating our own communities, whether that be online or offline or both, and start helping each other rise so we can all create a better future together. That's the only way, in my opinion.
Yeah, the value of community cannot be undersold, right? I mean, it is. I'm really thankful. I've found some really great communities with LinkedIn, with running into Mel on LinkedIn as well. Through again, I don't know if that was through Social Saturday, no idea how we connected. Just grateful that we did. But also, in here in Calgary as well, right? There's some really amazing communities that I've gotten into, and we live in a digital age now, which means it's really easy to find communities and people that you jive with, right? Because we're all, like you said, we're all very different, but there's a lot of us, which means that you will find people who fit into your circle and who talk about the things that you want to talk about and stuff like that, right? Like you're not alone in this, I think, which is the big thing, right? And just to kind of circle back to a good little a life hack that really helped me when I first started on my self-development journey, and kind of to shift the way that I was thinking. And hopefully it helps the viewers here as well. And you've touched on it briefly, but you control what your socials send you. So I started doing this with Instagram originally, where what I would do, and because they're all over Instagram, anytime I saw a piece of motivational content, inspiring content, I made sure that I liked that. And within about a week, the algorithm, because you can use we talk about the algorithm like this evil, nasty thing, but again, it's just a tool, and how we use that tool is whether it's for good or for bad. You can use the algorithm to actually then just inspire you and motivate you. So the reason I started doing this is I was spending way too much time on the couch. To be very true with myself, and I was like, I am spending way too much time on my phone right now. Like there are things I should be doing. There are better things that I need to be doing with my time. But I'm like, all I'm doing is scrolling through Instagram. And I was like, okay, what if I just start looking up motivational things on Instagram, liking those things, get the algorithm to work for me on Instagram. Then I'd sit down for 5 minutes on the couch, and pretty soon I've seen like 30 motivational posts. I'm like, I should really get off my butt here and go do something, and go to the gym and go work out, or start on a project, or work on something, because it's really easy to get into that wheel of just doing the same thing over and over again. But like you said, we have control of that wheel. So switching it, and it's like I said, it's really simple. Just start liking motivational things on Instagram, right? Unfollow things that are negative. In a bigger picture as well, another thing that I did was I just stopped talking to the people that were negative in my life. And it sounds really bad, but it's really important, right? Like if those people, and don't get me wrong, like I give people chances. I'm a very open person. I like to make friends with everybody, but then I'll only give time to the people that I know, deserve the time. And a lot of people that I grew up with, I grew up in a small rural town. A lot of those people have a different view of life than I do, right? And those people, I realized, when I kind of started on this journey, I was like, oh, those people are not helping me at all in this direction, right? They're very negative people. They don't really have any ambitions. They're not really going anywhere. Okay, I need to get rid of the people, and I need to replace them with people that are of value to me, and will push me forward and push me to bigger things. And unfortunately, sometimes those people are family members. You know what I mean? And that can be really tough. And I watch like a lot of like Gary Vaynerchuk and stuff like that. So those of you who may follow him have probably heard something very similar to this before. But he says like that doesn't mean to stop talking to your mom or your dad. It just means that maybe don't call them every day. Maybe don't call them for life advice either, right? Maybe call your mentor or somebody that you hold in high regard for life advice, right? This is, I mean, if you wrap that back to financial, if you were trying to figure out finances, you would talk to a financial expert, not your buddy, who works at, a garage or something, right? Because, he's got a specialty and it's fixing vehicles, and it's probably not accounting, right? And I think that those same things apply to not just the tangible things of life, but also the intangible ones as well.
Yeah, definitely. We need to be like really, again, it comes back to intentionality, and we also need to be cutthroat as well with certain people in our lives. And as hard as it may be, we need to put ourselves first, and we need to choose ourselves. And it's like, okay, well, having that conversation with yourself, okay, well, what kind of life do I want to cultivate? Like, who do I want to be? How do I want to go through life? What do I want to do? Like, what do I love to do? What kind of life do I want to cultivate? And if the people that are currently in your life are not hitting that bill, like, for instance, a few of mine is to be like spiritually open and aware, to be authentic, to live with integrity, to be inclusive, to be all encompassing. You know, if the people in my life don't fit that bill, like to have a vision for themselves, whatever that vision may be, whether it be big or small. Like if the people in my life don't fit that bill, then they're not really the people that I want to be with. I would rather be on my own, quite frankly, than spend time with the wrong people, because I understand how much being around the wrong people affects me, because I've been through that, I've experienced it. And you know, sometimes people need to go through that experience to learn.
Yep.
Whereas sometimes it's just a case of, oh, okay, cool, I'll learn from you, I won't go through that. And this is why it's good to listen to conscious conversations like this and podcasts of people that are successful. Like Gary V is definitely someone that I follow and highly respect. Like him, he seemingly came out of nowhere a few years ago.
Yeah,
but
it's a great example of that.
Yeah, it took him what, like 10, 20 years to be an overnight success?
Decades, yep.
And there's a woman that I follow in the coaching industry that I massively respect. And she is like literally bossing it at the moment. And it's very easy to compare ourselves to these people, but she's been in the industry for like 15 years. So of course, because she's cultivated that following, that brand awareness, that integrity within her brand as well. And also, like, something before we quickly close, because I know we're in like the media world, the marketing world, and all of that.
Yeah,
And
we're probably closing in on the
it's definite, because it's something that my mentor is very big on like doing for her brand, is like really thinking about the longevity of her brand. Now, what a lot of marketers or salespeople are thinking about is solely the sale, the sale, the sale, the sale. I want the sale, I want the commission, blah, blah, blah. But that's not what it's about. And this is why so many people are like put off from salesmen or getting into sales or getting into marketing, because they don't want to be seen as that sleazy salesperson. And fortunately, over the 5 years that I've been in this industry, I have seen this industry drastically change from the unhealthy salesmanship, which in my opinion also had a mixture of unhealthy masculine energy. And I'm not saying that it was totally men, but like it's like women also adopted that. And it is through, I mean, this is a whole other conversation, but it is through the effects of like patriarchy and the way that we've been conditioned through that unhealthy masculine trait. And what I've found through the last 5 years is so many people have started to become more spiritually awake and more awake to their own ethics and morals, that marketing and the sales way of things has started to embody the more healthy feminine aspect. And that is like empathy, nurturing. This is what it is. If you're ready, come. If you're not, that's okay. There's like, we're moving away from the manipulation and from the scarcity and from like you have to do this now, otherwise you're never going to get it again. And I really wanted to touch upon a point that you made in a conversation that we had in respects to the importance of empathy in marketing. Because going back to one of my mentors that I mentioned, with the building the longevity of our brand, like we're going to get people that respect us and follow us and like what we have, and not be in a space where they're necessarily ready to invest in us there and then. But that, like, I've had people that have joined me on my mission and my journey that have been following me for 3-4 years. They weren't ready 3 or 4 years ago, but they're now ready. And they've been learning from me throughout that journey. And I've been very, very intentional about showing that empathy, about caring about where people are in their journeys. So I'd just like to hear your side in respects to empathy in marketing.
I am so glad you asked that question. I think that what you said, you 100%, you hit on so many great points. The first one that I want to touch on is, you talked about how it's changed, and it totally has. I mean, I'm a marketer, which also means that whenever I run a media agency, we do creative, we do all that stuff. So because of that, obviously I have to sell. It's part of the job. And when I first started into it, I had that same thing. I was like, man, I don't know if I can be a salesperson. But thankfully, again, I had a very good social circle around me, and they were like, no, Freeman, like, sales is about relationships and you're good at that. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, but 20 years ago, I would have been horrible at sales. I wouldn't have made it at all. Right. I don't enjoy doing cold calls. I don't enjoy the pushy tactics. I don't enjoy that, like, oh, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. Or, oh, we'll make you this amount of money in X amount of days. Like, only give us this amount of money. And this is the one-time offer. And, you got to sign up right now. All of that stuff to me feels kind of gross, and I don't love it. So, but that was sales 20 years ago, right? And like I think using the word masculinity was very correct. It was very pushy. It was very like strong-headed. It was very overconfidence and huge ego, right? But thankfully, we are now getting to this world where it is more about empathy, right? And thankfully, I'm an incredibly empathetic individual, which is why I was very concerned with it at first, because you can't do that pushy level of sales if you're overly empathetic, because you wouldn't want it done to you, so you'll never do it to somebody else, right? It feels wrong, and it just feels gross. So thankfully, it's about relationships now and stuff like that, right? And I was able to kind of come to terms with that fairly early on. And I also realized too that one of it is, like, thankfully, again, another shift that's happening is you see the shift towards marketing being about giving value first, right? Giving value first and then asking afterwards, right? Or even just giving value first, just giving value out, right? And then they're like, oh, this person's giving value. This person's an expert in that field. There's somebody I should talk to about this thing that now I need, right? Which is just a much cleaner and more human way of doing it. And I live by this kind of, I have lots of mantras in case you haven't noticed yet. But one of my mantras is that we need to stop treating humans as resources and start treating them as humans again. Because I think it's something that's so forgotten in both marketing and sales. In both marketing and in sales, right? People in those fields just saw people as resources. They forgot that on the other side of the screen of the transaction was another human being with their own thoughts, their own emotions, right? And I think that's very, very important for all marketers and all sales people to really remember. Is it, that person's a person, we're all human at the end of the day. And there are so many of us that need the skills that other people have. You shouldn't have to like push people to do it, right? There's hundreds of thousands of individuals who are starting businesses, who need marketing help, who need coaching, who need whatever it is that you probably do. There's probably somebody who needs it. All you have to do is go find those people, show them what it is that you do, show them you're good at it, and then they'll respect that and they'll come to you for that service, right? Yeah. And I think that that's the big key to it. And I'm so glad it's shifting. Like I said, I would not have survived into the sales of 20 years ago. It would have been a wreck for me.
Definitely same as well. Same, like I'm the worst liar. I don't like pushing people. I'm not into that. Like, I'd rather just be me. This is how it is. This is what it is. If you like it, great. If you don't, okay, that's absolutely fine. And what did someone post the other day? It's like, if you think about it, in the world of business and sales, there's 7.8 billion people on this planet, right? 90% of people are not going to like you. It's just the fact of the matter. Like, they're not going to vibe or need what you have. So, okay, if that's the fact, there's like 795,000 people that will. I mean, that's plenty of people in the world. So it's just about finding them. And then if you have a look at social media, there's 4.48 billion users on there. So even if 90% don't want what you have, there's still 480,000 people or whatever. Hopefully I've done the maths right.
I'm so bad at math, so
but that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. And like the more you show you care, the more people care. And it really comes down to like whenever I get goosebumps, by the way, like what you said about not treating humans as resources and treating them like humans. Whenever I get goosebumps when people say stuff, it's like they're truth chills. It's like, yes, that is the truth.
I love truth
And we
chills.
are,
yeah,
we are all humans, and that's truly how we build the longevity within our businesses, within our brand, is giving out the value, is showing that we care. And then it's like, okay, well, I offer this, I have this available. If you're interested, come to me. If you're not, that's also fine. Like it's not the end of the world for me, because if you're not interested, someone else will be. So definitely a beautiful subject to end on. Freeman, thank you so much for your value. It's been absolutely amazing having you out. What I'm going to do for the watchers is I'm going to put some more information of Freeman, where you can catch him on social. So I'll give you the links, and I'll also give you a little blurb about what he does and how he can help you in a professional sense. I highly recommend that you go and follow him because he does give so much value, and he's definitely a great connection to have. But yeah, with that being said, Freeman, we're going to end it on this, seeing as you mentioned this earlier, what is your why?
Such a good question. Yeah, my why is something that I kind of hit on a while ago. So like I said, I'm a very empathetic person. I like to help people. My big why that I realized was that the more I can better myself, the more I can better others. And when I realized that's what really transformed my self-development journey, my business journey, and what I wanted to achieve. Because I knew that the better that I could be, the more I could better others. That's my why.
I love that. That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing, Freeman. It's been absolutely
Thank
amazing.
you so much. Oh,
I'm sure you'll come out again in the future. But for anyone watching, if you found value in this, please share it with your people. Please let us know in the comment section what you got out of this the most. Really appreciate the likes and the comments. It helps with the algorithm on YouTube. So thank you. And I will see you next time for the next conscious conversation. Speak to you soon.